my cloud, it probably, I think your internet's good for that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I am already. So welcome everybody to the Social Media Challenge Fraser Valley Social Media Group Meetup live from San Diego. I have never done one live. I've done webinars from my house in BC, but I've never done one live down here. And I've just been at an incredible 3-day event, which was all about high ticket selling and just having that millionaire mindset in terms of the value that you bring to your clients. And it was just mind-blowingly excellent. There was this really cool guy who spoke about social media. He was pretty good. I heard.
His name is Jonathan Christian.
This is a smart group.
He's
And
a
this
sassy.
lady here is really the star of the show because Diane and I have been friends for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We met a year last October in Tampa through the Sassy Mastermind, Jacqueline. And Diane has just got the most incredible story that we're about to hear about. And I sort of snuck into the Diamond Lounge at this event where her and her husband were, or partner Kerry here. And I always like to sit where I'd like to be. I did that with the Sassy retreat last time. I sat in the advanced table and became advanced. So careful what you wish for. And Diane has such an incredible story, and she uses social media. Honestly, I think you use social media better than I do.
Oh, that's a compliment.
So I thought it would be really fun to be able to talk about what Diane does and her backstory to that. And then from that, you guys can ask as many questions as you want because this lady is rocking it in her business development. And it's a big game plan for a long strategic future. And it's very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I don't have one of those scripts except to say, this is Diane, Diane Halfman, H-A-L-F. So in English, we might say Halfman, but we say Halfman here. And she has a business called #SpaLife. So what do you mean by Spa Life?
Right. So yeah, when you see out there where it says, this is Spa Life, this is the life that I want myself and my friends to live, you know, and when I talk about Spa Life, it is that, to me, that's a lifestyle. So it's where accomplishment and harmony coexist together because we can all work really hard, but if we don't have the lifestyle that we want, I mean, who wants that? You know, you want to have that balance of all the things that you want to have as well. So it's really important with that. And I use spa because a lot of people have had an experience of walking into a spa where you just kind of feel like you can just leave your cares behind and you just feel like you can take that deep breath and you feel really good. But that can be just a one-off experience. I want you to have a spa life where it's like part of your life, where every single day you're actually feeling that, where all the rooms in your home and each, you know, aspect of your life feels like a spa life where it's all working and you're having the experience you want in each room. You want to have a different experience in your bedroom than you want to have in your office than what you want to have in your kitchen.
You do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Scientific at home. I first met you, I heard you speak on stage at Lisa's event, and you were telling people about decluttering, and I thought you were like the lady who just came in and organized people's closets, but obviously there is way more than that, but that's how it started, right?
Right. Well, you know, that is really what I step forward. And this is what, you know, in terms of what you step out into the world and you share about yourself, you know, that's really what takes off. So I was really known for being, you know, a professional organizer because I had a lot of systems and structures that worked. And I was really taught early on that, you know, to have like something really solid that people could get and understand to start your business with. However, when I started working with people in their home, you know, Spa Life has actually always been part of my business because, I mean, you know this, you can never help people with just one aspect, right? No. You have to look at the whole picture, right?
Yep.
And so organizing was one part of it, but I actually use like 9 different elements that I have people look at because when you change one thing, you actually end up changing everything. So instead of just focusing on just the physical space, I was looking at, you know, how does that affect your relationships and, you know, what kind of spiritual connection do you have? How are you doing self-care? I mean, what's your mindset? I mean, it's all interrelated. And so for a lot of people, the physical space is a great first place to start because it's something visible, something that you can see. And, you know, our environment impacts everything. So if things aren't working in your space, it's probably associated with something else that might not be working as well.
Got it. And of course, you just lived this really quite nice, airy-fairy life all your life, and just living in a spa is just so natural for you, right? A lot of you saw the headline when it says, a former cop turns a business model into a spa life and rocks it. So may I ask,
yes,
tell me about your alter ego.
Okay. Absolutely. Yes, this is the thing that, when I start talking about, spa life and, people have this, especially when they first see me, that's kind of like, oh, of course she spends the time in the spa and what that looks like. However, how many of you, like you have this aspect where people see you, but then there's a whole other aspect of you that people don't know about you, and sometimes
Thank
that's
goodness.
good, right? Sometimes that's a good thing, but we all have different aspects to ourselves. And, especially in business, we always want people to see like the best parts of us and the things that we want people to see. However, whether it's your physical space or just another alter ego of who you are, people don't always see that. So what a lot of people don't know about me is that I was a San Diego police officer for 10 years, and I worked patrol as well as undercover. So I worked gangs, narcotics, and vice. So, I went from having private school education, right, to being out on the street and really seeing a whole part of life that I never had seen before or saw how people were living. But what was great about that in the education of it was that I have literally been in thousands of homes, mostly uninvited, when people are at their worst time of their life, where I see what's going on with them. And it was at that time that I coined the term clutter to drama ratio, that the people that had the most clutter in their space had the most drama going on, and the police were being called. So the more clutter, the more drama. But the reverse was true as well. So that was happening.
So that is a proven stat, that more clutter, more drama.
Yes.
I think I can prove that stat.
But the reverse is true as well.
Okay.
So that as you reduce clutter in your space, you actually had more bandwidth to do better in your life, do better in your business, because, there's something called that, most of us have a creative aspect to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there's too much stuff around, you actually can't think very clearly. So creativity actually craves clarity. So you need to create a clear space in order to be more creative. I mean, you think about it. If you're being creative and you're trying to do the things in your business, think of it in terms of computer. If you've got, full on the most amount of RAM, there's no RAM left for you to do anything new. So you have to reduce that in your space in order to be able to do something different.
Yeah. Interesting. Hey, David and Sue is here too. Hi, Sue Marshall.
Hi, Jonathan.
Sue is in the middle of arranging a whole group of ladies to go on a massive vacation to Greece.
Ooh.
It's like Shirley Valentine on speed, right? So that's what
I love Greece.
And David is the most professional Toastmastering speaker you'll ever meet. The guy has got wit coming out of his ears and very much, yes, you do.
I'll have to watch my ums and ands.
No, not that. No, I don't know. I'm not a member of Toastmasters.
You're not? Just the Canadian professional speakers then?
Yeah, just caps.
Okay. All right. Well,
Toastmasters is a little too tough.
And his daily walks and videos and the tulips today in the forest are just the mindset that he has, and just the professional reflection of what's going on in the world. And David's little vignettes are awesome. So great to have.
Then, how do you have time to watch my musings?
You'd be surprised. I'm pretty diligent with my social media. I have certain people I like to follow, and in fact, you're one of them, as is Mr. Troy above you there, or above me. This is like Celebrity Squares.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of like you're a stalker.
In a good way. And then, of course, Jacqueline is out in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, so it's probably already midnight like that there, right? Midnight and -10?
You're on mute.
No, it'll be 9.
8 o'clock.
Oh, 8 o'clock. It's only an hour difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So Jacqueline is actually in the Sassy community. She joined months ago, right?
Okay.
So she joined the Vegas.
Yeah, I
so.
thought I recognized your last name.
Yeah.
Good to see you here.
Hi. I remember you now. You were on stage, I
Who
think.
could forget this lady?
Well, good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
That's brilliant. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Diane is I really feel that I've gotten to know you not from the Sassy retreats where we only ever get a minute time with people, but through specifically your use of Facebook Live.
Yes.
And also the fact that you are not afraid to share pretty much every time you go out for dinner or whatever. So I am, Debbie and I, like super jealous of this San Diego lifestyle that we totally miss out on up in Canada, because there's all these people we love and we don't get to dine with them. But whether it's families or friends or whatever, you've just found that balance of privacy and public life that you're very comfortable with, which is unusual for people who are ex-police
Right.
sort of thing, right?
It is definitely unusual. Usually police are very private. They don't really like to have anybody see, who they are. But, I take a much different, look at it, and that, also part of being part of of law enforcement, you see really how precious life is and how short life is. And so we really are in the mindset of live life to the fullest and to share it with everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you sure do.
I do.
You should. So Spa Life then has gone from decluttering to a whole way of life, right?
Yes. Lifestyle.
And you've actually made a business. I mean, I know some professional organizers, and they're beautiful people, and some of them even come to my meetup, and they struggle like crazy to make a living because they're just doing it by the hour at $40 an hour or something like that, and then they might bring somebody in at a lower rate to help them. But that's the model. I mean, they're really good at the mindset of where people are at, and they'd love to help them deeper.
Right.
But truthfully, they haven't made that a very profitable business. Whereas you've got programs that last a year, right?
Right, I do.
So how did you shift your mindset from what the typical organizer is to where you are? And I'd love to hear more about what those programs actually look like.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. I kind of forget sometimes about that aspect of the journey. And I think the difference is that, especially when you first start in a business, a lot of times we equate what we do with kind of what we call dollars for hours. Like, for this amount of time, I'm going to give you this kind of service. However, one of the things that, we both are on the same page on is that we're really looking for a transformation. I think anyone at some point in their life has organize some aspect of their life, but the common experience that I see with people is that they are unorganized, or they're even worse, a week later, a month later, years later. It's like everyone has this great intention of having an organized space, or that they want to have things be more of a reflection of who they are. However, I always tell people, they didn't teach that in school. It's like no one taught you how to balance a checkbook or run your money. They didn't tell you how to organize your life. They didn't tell you
algebra.
Right. They didn't tell you how to have great relationships. The basic things that you need in your life are the things they don't teach you in school. So I always tell people, don't beat yourself up for not being organized, because no one ever really taught you how to do it. So what I really look at is having a transformation in your life for a long term. And so part of how I do that is I meet people where they're at. There's kind of like 3 different stages that I help people at. In the beginning, where people are in chaos and clutter. It's just no systems, things aren't working, and I've got my online academy for that. And part of what's really great for that, and I think this is where the disconnect happens with some people that are doing organizing solely for their business, is that they tell people, okay, you're not organized, here's my program, go do it, right? Well, for someone who's overwhelmed and they're frustrated, the last thing they want to do is learn something else to then be able to apply it. They need to have more connection with you. And this is where the beauty of Zoom has come in, where I do these Zoom clutter community cleanups, where we get together, everybody's on there, we do some of the organizing together. And it's been huge. I had a woman, I was going to tell you about this. She was in my class earlier this week. She had a box in her office that she had there for 30 years. And it had just been sitting there, and it was one of those, she didn't know what was in there. She didn't want to set the time. There was just a lot of things around that. And during that time, we actually went through it, and she was able to get rid of the things she wasn't going to use. She found something she'd been looking for years. And it just really helps people to see, what is it in their space that really helps them. So what really makes the difference is the transformation.
Right.
And then for the people, as they kind of move more through that, then they start having more clarity, and then they're consciously creating their life. So they've got some systems, they've got some things that are working, but they actually want their whole life to work together. And that's where I have my retreats. So I've got my Spa Life retreats where people can connect together and really understand the deep principles of how this becomes more of a lifestyle.
So let me just stop you.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have retreats that you do for work. Okay.
Yes, this is Spa Life.
Okay. This is like hard ice fishing in Saskatchewan at a spa.
I love it.
With your Fitbit going right all the way up.
So maybe we'll get Jacqueline to walk to her sewing room, because if you want to talk about organized, holy Dinah.
Not right now. I was in there on the weekend and I made a mess.
It's like all over the world. It's incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
3 different programs.
Yeah.
And you don't have to physically meet people. You can actually do this now through Zoom.
Yes.
So
except for my retreats.
Except for your retreats, which are in person.
Yes.
So client base wise, that's just gone way beyond city boundaries then.
Absolutely. It can be international. Yeah. I've got people that are coming on from Australia and just all over the place. Yeah.
That's awesome. And let me reverse back now to, I found out about you. I understand your model now a little bit more, and those retreats just sound way too yummy. Facebook Live.
Yes.
You do that. I mean, I was doing it before it was live and you could upload because I didn't have the little blue check mark, and I did it for a year and did very well in building my list.
Right.
You're doing it actively now. And not only are you just doing Facebook Lives, but you're also doing Facebook Live interviews through Be Live TV.
Yes, Be Live.
Because she had this thing on Facebook the other day. It was like, announced that I will be live at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And I am racking my brains how I can do that on Facebook. And I couldn't. I went, you know what? I think you use a different platform. And you did, right?
Right. For me to know something techie before this guy, I mean, that's like, what?
So I had to ask. I'm not afraid to ask. I don't mind being, what did they tell us? Be the dumbest person in the room.
Absolutely. That's the best thing.
So I'm good for that. I'm good for that. So your Facebook Lives, you often do from like the beach, from a park, from a walk. I mean,
yes.
Why do you pick all these different settings for your lives?
Well, I think that what's great about that is, I think when people sometimes get intimidated in doing the Facebook Live, because really to get the traction for your business, you have to be consistent. You need to have certain days and certain times that people know when you're coming. So like this time, you guys can plan for it, when to be here. And so a lot of people don't want to have that commitment of a time because they'll be like, well, what if I'm traveling? What if I'm doing this? Well, the great thing about having a remote business is that you can do it remotely and do it anywhere. And, I've had some people that, what's really kind of nice is that people will tell me that they've watched some of my platforms and they maybe didn't comment, maybe they didn't say anything, but they just said, you know what, I look forward to it.
Yes,
it's something
I've
really,
heard that so many times.
and people who say like, I live vicariously through you, like, oh, I've always wanted to go here, right? I love stalkers, it's just one of those things where it's like, you don't realize, especially if you have a business where you're working out of your home, you may not see anyone else in the day. I mean, that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur. It may be just you and you don't see anyone else in the day, or you have maybe just a few people. So really Facebook Live is a way for people to have that connection with people, and they really get to know you. And the more you take them with you on the journey, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, okay, today we're going here. Come with me.
Yes.
And it's more of this, like, we're getting to do it together. And that's really what I think has made people get to know each other a lot better, is when there aren't some of those boundaries. Because if you really separate your life where it's like, okay, now I've got my business hat on and now I've got my personal hat on, then people really don't get to see the totality of who you are. And when people really get to know who you are, they want to know more.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And one thing I found through my Facebook Live and through my social media is that when people call me, they're already ready to do business. They already know who I am. They like what I do. They've seen the stories that we told about success for other people, and they're ready.
Right.
So that whole selling process is turned on its head because it's top down. They're coming to you rather than you trying to sell to them. My friend Neil Godden has this great phrase. It says, I call you, I'm a salesman. You call me, I am an expert.
I like that.
And that's where the price point totally changes. Not that you just gouge people, but you really are able to charge what you're worth because people see the value, because they've already seen in totality what it is that you're rolling out,
right, and
how it works through. So Debbie and I had, what did they call it, the nickel tour of Diane's home, because you have to go and look in the closet, right, when she's the spotlight lady. Oh my gosh.
So can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So I understand the importance of sort of same time and all that kind of thing on Facebook Live. And I'm just wondering, do you have a length of time that's consistent as well? Like, I've just seen some stats about the average length of time that people stay on a video, which is, they said 4 minutes, which actually feels long to me. But when you're doing a FaceTime Live, do you find there's a sweet spot for length of time, and if there's variables, what those variables are?
Right. So, one of the things that they've shared with me is that, 3 times is a sweet spot a week to have that as kind of a minimum amount of time. Let's just say that if we decide like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that's kind of an easy type thing. You could do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but it's kind of nice to know there's some consistency around that. So typically what will happen is that you'll do something in the beginning of the week. And it's also nice if you have a title of them. So my Mondays are Map It Monday. Some people have Motivation Monday, like whatever that is, so people can kind of have that recognition with your brand and what that looks like. So if you're doing like some teaching, like usually that's kind of like 8 to 10 minutes for that time. If it's a little bit less or a little bit more, then that's fine for that Monday time. And then for on Wednesday, that's usually a little bit longer as far as what you're doing. So usually that can even be like 20 minutes. And kind of the sweet spot on that is the 20 to 30 minutes. And that's the time where I started doing interviews, because that way we could get into a little bit more discussion. You maybe could dive deep on something that you've already taught about on Monday. You're continuing the conversation and it's a little bit more personable. And then on Friday is kind of like a glimpse out of your life. So this is where either I'm traveling or I'm out somewhere, and that can only be like 1 to 2 minutes, because they're getting to get a little insight, a little slice of what you do, maybe doing your hobby, maybe something going on, with your friends or whatever that is. I have a retail store as well. And so I always wear something from my retail store.
You do the clothing.
Yes.
Right?
So that's what I do on Friday is I wear something from my store and I tell someone about it, and they get to hear another little, aspect of my life. So it's a thing where, there's no wrong amount of time. It's better to be on than not on. And then one of the things I was also told about is that it really doesn't even matter how many people are on there, because there will be more people that watch the replay later. So just doing it, if it is just you and yourself on there and you're having a conversation, don't let that dissuade you at all. Because at first I thought, okay, I'm doing this myself. Who's going to watch this? What's going to happen? But it really does build.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a feature on Facebook. When you follow somebody, you can actually set the notification so the next time they're live, you get an update. And I find on my phone, as I get this little square box that just slides over, and there's whoever it is who's Facebook living, and I can choose to jump right into it or not, and then you don't miss out.
Right. Yes.
But the follow-through views, I mean, I remember some of my videos, I might have reached like 300 people or so. I was pretty happy with that. A day or so later, I'm like 1,100 people. It's like, where do they come from?
Right. Right.
And one of the things that Diane and I were talking about was being able to repurpose that video as well. So not just using Facebook, but then to save it on your hard drive with the phone, whatever, re-upload that then to Zoom, or if you're using Zoom or using your phone, upload that then to YouTube. And then you've got Google working for you as well as Facebook. And what I tend to do then is I'll use those YouTube videos, I'll have them transcribed, and then I have the text of everything you said, which is normally golden, and that's your blog. Yeah. So you can embed the video, you've got the text, so you're hitting the sweet spot for SEO, you're hitting the sweet spot for Google, so they can search by video, they can search by text. You've reached the 1.2 billion people active on Facebook, and it's the same piece of content.
Right.
And that is that's awesome.
Right.
So but it seems there needs to be a pretty strong strategy behind this, because I know that to just start doing it, be easy to do. But most of the people that I know, my clients, have, like, I have a micro short attention span. And they tend to as well. So when you said 20 to 30 minutes, I just started shaking, imagining doing anything for that long. I mean, given that tonight I just came home.
We're at 25. We better finish quick.
Well, I mean, my family's upstairs for dinner, and I can see take an hour. But when I think of a half-hour chunk in a day that's packed, I'm having a hard time imagining it. However, I think that's probably a function of what my customer base is. And so what I need to do is think of, like, for the kinds of things that you do, it makes perfect sense. For what I do, it would be, first of all, I don't have enough content to do them. We're about 2 or 3 minutes at a time. But I know that people wouldn't watch it either on replay or live. So this has been really helpful, because it's going to make me think about who's my ideal customer. And, when do they actually use Facebook? Yes. And what's going to be of appeal to them?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my classes in Diane's now are at least an hour long, but that's a webinar format, and you've been on the day with the boot camps and stuff where we're teaching. But what I've always done with my Facebook Live is try and put some context in it right from the very second you do the 3, 2, 1. So my hands are out, I'm moving around, I've got some backdrop. I might even look the opposite way with my camera, just so that someone's like, well, what was that? Right. And then just keeping that engagement going, rather than a talking head behind a white wall background. I mean, we've got beautiful colors here. We blend like, we got the memo on the wardrobe tonight.
Right.
Thanks, Deb. But that's really important too. And for the year-long challenge that I did, I never did a video in the same place twice. It was always different times of day. Right. And, I could brag. I did a video in Tahiti. I did one in Moorea. I did one in Bora Bora. I did them in Mexico. I've done them on a plane. I've done them at 4 a.m. in a trucking yard, waiting for the convoy to go out with a drone. So there was always something interesting, well, for me anyway, as part of what I did. And The only ones I don't like to do is the walking ones. I actually have a gimbal now, so I managed to get over that. But you don't want to make people seasick.
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
So that steady image, even though you want to be engaging,
Yeah, no. Yeah.
you don't want the
No.
seasickness, because that definitely won't work.
I think what's helpful as well is, there's a good balance between, content that you want to give across and spontaneity as well. But having a little bit of just 5 minutes of just kind of some pre-thought about really what is it that you want to convey. The amount of time, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes, like what is it that you want to share with them today, whether it's an insight that you have, a teaching, or something along those lines. And what's really helpful is just to think, because people are really good at really absorbing something in threes. So if you just say, hey, these are the three, and you tell them up front, these are the three things I want to tell you about this, right? And even if you just before knew what those three words were, you could tell a story about it, you could give your insight about it, and then you know where you're going in the context of it, because nothing I think is a little bit more challenging when you're live, when you tell something you're all excited about, and then you're like, and there's this other thing I want to tell you. And that's where you start getting into and where am I going? And then you start feeling a little uncomfortable and a little not confident. And, it just can be a little weird, right? Yeah. And so if you just know that, hey, if I just tell them these three things, it's a win and it's great. And I, a lot of times, get like a little sticky note and I actually put it right next to me so that if I go off on a story or something else, I know I'm coming right back to that. Yes. So, because you don't want to be lost and then not know where to come back, right? So it really helps to just have that forethought to go, you know what, these are the three things I want to do. And then to remember, what do you want to leave them with? Because if people want to know more, you want to be able to lead them to make a comment, to maybe go to your website, to give them a free gift, to have something, so that they can then learn more about you. So if you just kind of have that kind of shell where it's like, here's your welcome, here's the three things, and this is what you're, offering them to go to, not to sell to them in that time, but just to say, here's how you can learn more. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great formula to use, and it's easy, because the whole thing about being consistent is easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
Oh, you're welcome, David. Thank you for that. Like Mr. Troy Goodman there, he has a home renovation business, and he does some killer renovations, but he's also renovated his whole mindset and his whole body. Oh. He's working on his master's of psychology, I think.
Working at it.
His wife is like Debbie or currently still is a children's pastor. So they get people, they get what life is like. Every Sunday is like everybody else's Monday.
Right.
But Troy's on a mission. It's like he got something fixed in his head. It's like, I don't want to be this heavy guy with a burger in his hand. I want to make something out of my life, and I'm going to reinvent myself. So he's on a journey right now of just what that branding looks like. And we're talking about that together quite a lot, and how he can actually take that mindset that he's got into a business model, because I'll show you the pictures later. Talk about ripped. You embarrass me, buddy. I couldn't even show those pictures to my wife.
Hi, Deb. It's going to happen, Jonathan. It's going to happen.
Well, what's wonderful is, the whole renovation. And I love that, the fact that, just when we have one aspect of our life and we can carry it through to other things. So, physical renovation, mental, renovation, which is a spiritual renovation. I mean, there's so many ways you can just tie that through. I mean, you could just talk about that alone in just having 3 examples on each one of those things. I mean, when you look at the depth of things, and this is the thing too, it's like some of the things that we think are just like, why would someone want to hear about that? Or it's just a common knowledge to me, or it's not that big a deal. Maybe people wouldn't find that interesting or whatever. But what's interesting is what is just common knowledge to us is like pearls of wisdom to someone else, because they didn't have that experience. They didn't walk that path. They didn't learn the lesson in the way that you learned it. And so what you bring to the table it's gold, because someone needs to hear that message. In fact, when I started doing organizing in the very beginning, and I thought, well, everyone knows how to organize, and what am I telling someone that they don't already know how to do, and those kind of things. But one of the things I heard is you actually need to hear something 7 times at least to really hear it. And you may be the one voice that someone needed to hear, that maybe they heard it 5 different times from somebody else, but the way you said it actually landed for them and it changed their life.
So how many times is that?
At least 7.
Sorry, how many?
7.
Right. 6, 7.
Right.
Just testing.
I hear you. But what's amazing about that is that you think that because someone said it or they heard it, that they actually incorporated it.
Mhm.
You know, they maybe heard one part of it, but they didn't hear the part that they needed. And it's how it all works together. But it's the message plus your personal experience is what really is the transformation that they receive, which is why they need to hear it from you.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have another question for you. When you do your your meetings where you're going through people's stuff remotely, you know, and doing the organizing, it seems to me there's many ways that someone could get that same kind of service. How important do you feel is the community aspect of what you're doing and the fact that they're doing it together beyond what the content of that meeting happens to be?
Right. Well, I feel that it's really helped for the community aspect. I do one-on-one work. I mean, there's people that, they fly me to their home and we do it one-on-one together, or we work one-on-one privately. So that does happen. But what I have found is like there's this whole surgence of people that really enjoy the community aspect for several reasons. One is that they feel like they're not alone, because what happens is that when people start having a lot of things out of place in their home, there seems to be a little bit of like, shame. Like, I don't want anyone to see that part of me because it doesn't represent who I want to be in the world. And so when they see that there are other people going through that, they actually kind of feel a sense of relief that it's like, oh, thank God it's not just me, right? And when they hear the questions that other people are asking along the way, they heard it in a different way from them and they can apply it to themselves as well. So, and then the people who are starting out new, they realize that there's a place that they can go, that there's actually light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's helpful too. So there's a lot of different aspects when you do things in community that you have that sense that you're not in it alone and you learn from each other. So it's really pretty empowering for people as well, because I've had people that, maybe they just got disorganized over the last year because they were in a move. But then I've got people that, they've been in the same home for 50, 60 years and things just piled up, and no one just wakes up and goes, I think I'll be a hoarder, or I think I don't want to have things, together how they are. But it just happens a little bit at a time. And it's always like, well, as soon as the kids graduate, as soon as I finish this job, as soon as, then I'm going to do it. And no one says, hey, on Saturday, I think I want to go through all my stuff, right? And so by having something on your calendar, by having the accountability, by having the community, it actually draws you to going. It's kind of like coming here at this time on this call. I mean, there's a million things you can do. The fact that there's other people and the interaction, It just makes it that more engaging and there's more completion.
And I think just even to pick up on that a little bit too, goes back to what you were saying earlier about it, the mess and the disorder is a sign of often what's going on inside, right?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
It's more than, I don't know where to get the boxes and I don't know how to sort my socks and sort my closet. I'm lacking information. It's a sign of there's other things going on. So gathering with other people is meeting other particular needs, beyond just the information.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, hands down. I mean, there's so many, emotions that come because, it's not just about the stuff. And that's why I tell people you want to get organized, not just to have neat piles in your home. It's for the lifestyle that you live. It's how you feel about yourself. It's how you relate to other people and really the experience that it is that you want to have. So it's much deeper than that. And when you're with other people, and I think it does help, and I think this is something I do uniquely bring to the table, if you will, is that as a police officer, literally been in thousands of homes, there is nothing I haven't seen. So there's no judgment. There's no this is because some people are kind of like, oh, well, let me clean up before she sees it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's really about because what happens when I see a space that is, either cluttered or not working for someone, I actually see the real person that they are. And I actually see through it about what it can be. Mm-hmm. And so I hold that space for them of where we're going. It doesn't matter how we got there. It doesn't matter any of the story or anything around it. It's where are we going? Mm-hmm. And as a community, it's kind of like, let's do this together. There's some energy with, one of the Jim Rohn. If you know Jim Rohn, and so one of the things that's awesome about him, he said, there's a different energy about let's do this together, right? Versus go clean up your crap.
I got it.
It's different energy, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to segue back to not doing it alone, because you've done something that I haven't done, which is the Be Live TV and interviewing people on Facebook Live, but not just you, actually bringing somebody in from a different location.
Yes.
So what made you decide to do that?
I thought what was fun about that is, one, I think it's always good to have people outside your own expertise to see how they're doing certain aspects of it. So when I talk about the spa life, sometimes people are like, well, how do I do that? Or I'm not sure what that looks like. And so when I talk about spa life, I talk about the being like successful and accomplished, but doing it with harmony. And I wanted people to have more examples that, there's so many things happening out in the media where you could have like negative examples of a lot of things. It's really important for me for people to have positive role models, positive ways of how people are living their life and what it is they're doing. So I wanted to bring people into my show where it was like, how are you living your spa life? How is it that we all have 24 hours in a day, right? And it's not magical that someone gets more hours for good behavior. It's all the same, but people are accomplishing amazing things in that 24 hours. They're also doing it with harmony. And it's like, what are those secret spa life secrets that they have? I'm always about cracking the code. Like, what do they have to share with us, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that interview style so that people could have lots of different examples from a lot of different backgrounds of how people were doing that, so they could have models of how they could bring it into their own life.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Now, 2 weeks ago, you interviewed Lisa Sasevich.
I did.
And sort of down and dirty isn't the right phrase, but very honest. I mean, I watched that the whole way through. I mean, how did you land a fish like that? I guess you just got to ask, right?
I asked. It's amazing. That's something that's really coming into my space a lot, is that it sometimes feels like, certain people or certain next levels in our business, that all of those things feel like, inaccessible, right? But it really comes down to just the decision. This is what I want. This is the transformation. And my absolute favorite, slogan that I say to everyone is, it's a quote that I use all the time by Clement Watt. It's take the first step, no more, no less, and the next step will be revealed. And what's so profound about that is all you have to do is take the first step, because none of us really know the second step. We could set out like, oh, I think I'll do this, this, and this. But when you take the first step, it's a new view. There's lots more options at that time. Then you look at what is the next thing to do. So when you do that, you actually can be a little bit more brave if you just take that first step. I'll just ask, right?
Sure.
I'll just try this one thing. If it doesn't work, there's no failure. There's just new lessons and new ways of doing things. Like, well, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
It's just learning.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to meet with somebody who's with that blended family and 5 children between them, and how they manage life and work and what they do, and kids in Argentinian Olympic class and all sorts of stuff. And it's fascinating.
Right. And other than just hearing about her story, what's so profound about that is a lot of people, they'll hear, Lisa Sasevich, they'll see her, they'll have an idea about her. They'll think how she lives her life. Things must be easy for her. They have all this like perception, just like I'm sure people have perceptions about us, about whatever. Right. But here's the thing, when you actually get to have deeper conversations with someone and you get to see what happens behind closed doors, they have their own challenges, they have things that they have to overcome. When you actually get to hear that part of the story, it actually feels a little bit more doable. Yeah. It's like, what? If they can have that in their day, then what? I can make it happen.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Betcha. So who else have you got coming up on the show? I'd love to hear.
Well,
I cannot say yet.
I will say one. Okay. Sandra Yancey.
Get out of here.
Yes.
The founder of E-Women's Network.
Yes.
What did I hear the other day? 33,000 people in monthly membership.
Yes.
Nice.
And you know what? And here's the thing. You say her name, you hear E-Women, you hear all the amazing things. And if you take a step and if you actually got to spend like an afternoon with her, she is the most humble, amazing woman. I mean, she has such a heart of gold. The amount that she has given back, her and her husband, Kim, I mean, it's just really amazing to get to know them. And so it's so good to know all the facets of someone. I mean, there's the places that we think, and that's why we hold them up so high. And that's why it's so hard sometimes when, that's a long way down when people hold you up so high, but when you see that totality of who someone is, I mean, it just makes you love them even more, right?
Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. So Be Live TV. You can also use Zoom webinar, and that will interface for Facebook Live too. And then you can bring and invite other people through into that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with those interviews, then what are you repurposing them yet?
Oh,
Or
yes. And I'm
creating
learning
your
new
own-
things with you as well.
your own
huh?
channel, as it were?
Yes, absolutely. So what we'll do is, and so one of the great things about doing either the Be Live or the Zoom platforms is that you have all that you can have. You can have the actual video and the audio, and it's all together, and you can go anywhere with that, right?
Mhm,
Because you have all of it. And so then what we'll do is we'll actually take the audio out of it, and we'll use it for the Blog Talk Radio. And so we'll be part of that.
Oh, right.
Yes,
Which could equally be a podcast.
absolutely. Yes. And now I know to take the words and put that into the blog and say, see, I'm listening.
And caption the videos too with the same words.
Right. So, and what's great is that, see, here's what happens is that when you say, if I need to do the Facebook Live, it's like having to do more, right?
Yeah.
It's actually having to do less because you can get rid of a lot of other things. You don't have to sit down and figure out a blog or write out the next thing. If you just speak all your wisdom that you have to say, and it just gets transcribed, you can take out little sentences. You can use it in tweets. There's so many different things that people can do for you once you do it.
Yes.
Right? Oh, and then if you actually capture all of them together, like let's say you did a series, then you can just turn it into a book, and there you've got your book written. Ta-da!
Ding, 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 ding.
Isn't that awesome?
Right. And it's all about being more efficient, right?
So Jacqueline,
One
there's
thing.
your book right there.
Yeah.
And you too, Jonathan.
Oh,
We
I
can
know.
do them all together.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and that actually leads me to when you're doing the Facebook Live, let's say you kind of look at, it's actually worthwhile to take maybe 20 to 30 minutes to just look at what is the overall you want to do. Like, what do you want to do? Like maybe in 3 months, 6 months, a year in your Facebook Live. And so if you, for instance, I teach in 9 different areas. So for me, that's 9 different months where I focus on one area and I do more of my teachings in those areas, and those can each be chapters in my book. So you can be really strategic in what kind of information that you're sharing with people. And so initially, you don't have a set amount of material you do. I like to do what is a brain dump, where it's all your best ideas, all the things, you just kind of throw them out there. And then you can just kind of organize them, go, you know what, if I had a book, this would be generally the chapters and how I would do it. And it doesn't have to be that, right? This is just all ideas. It can change at any time. But if you have a general framework of what that is, it makes it easier to focus on what you're teaching versus going, did I teach about that already? Did I already talk about that already? And, it gives you a little bit of framework of what that is.
Yeah.
It's like those bullet points that I talked about, those 3 bullet points. It gives you the ideas to talk about, but then you can expand anywhere with your life experience. A lot of times I don't know what I'm going to say till we get there because
I've been
things that happens, right? Right.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Exactly. So the other thing too is that what I find with the Facebook Live, and you don't always get the comments. And I spoke at a business association the other day, and the vice chair of the association, who I know quite well, I haven't probably seen him in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me, put his hand over my shoulder, and he said, "Jonathan, Mel," he said, "we make stuff happen." I said, "Yeah, we do." He said, No. You make stuff happen, my boy. And I went, "Well, it's very kind of you." He said, "I watched your videos." He said, "I saw the effort." But he said, what I really said, I saw your soul. I got to know who you are, and I've watched how your business grows.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I just got to say, I am so proud to know you."
Oh,
And I'm like,
what? So nice. That's so nice.
So just being authentic and really taking people on a journey with a purpose. Yeah, we all need to make money, and we all have programs to sell to make a living. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there's almost a higher agenda in that you're really enriching people's lives. And
right.
if there's a service that you have that they want, as I say, the process of them calling you is just so different. They already feel like they know you and they want what you do. It's like, I'm having what she's having kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And, I've been looking at your spa life retreats and hey, I'm in San Diego.
Yeah, we want you with us. We have so much fun.
This is my first son in 9 months. My gosh, it's awesome.
Oh, good. Well, you know what? In being completely authentic, I actually waited at least 6 to 9 months to really launch doing my Facebook Live, because there was just that part of me, because I was going to do it when Molly had started. She's the one that first told me about it, and we were like, let's do this. She's like, just do it. And I was just kind of hitting that button was just it was just too much, because in the beginning, I was used to having things filmed where we could do retakes, or we could edit, or we could do all these things. And there was just a part of me that felt like once you got it out there. You couldn't change it. It was how it was. And then there was also part of me, it was like, well, what if I evolve and change and that's not my message anymore? And what are people going to think about that? I mean, I just had all these stories around what it meant. And when I finally just was like, you know what? And I had set out for the first of the year saying, you know, I'm just going to do this. It's just going to happen. And when I just did it, I was just like, you know what? People actually prefer that I may mix my words or it may not look so perfect. And I mean, yes, I got a pretty screen in the back and that part's really super cool and all that. But, you know, it's okay if I don't necessarily know all the aspects and then we're having a conversation and it evolves because part of the questions that you're asking us helps us think about a different aspect of what we do. And it's this shared knowledge that's happening and that I don't have to be perfect about it. I don't have to know every little aspect about it. And that was so freeing to be able to do that, to happen. And yeah, so there's some that I feel like I delivered more material or I thought it was, you know, a better episode or whatever. But it's okay because that is where people actually get to know you so that when they work with you, they know that part of you too. Because if we set them up with this perfect facade, like we have it all together and then they get an experience of us and that's maybe not all true, then there's that sense of, you know, if people work with you because they know, like, and trust you, if there's something not really congruent with you, it may actually play in, even if it's subconscious, how they trust you.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
How they want to get to know you. So the more that you can really let them see all the aspects of you, when they get to know you, they actually really know you.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
Could you unpack that idea a little bit further? I think this question may go back to a little bit what David was asking about earlier as well. Somehow finding that balance in social media between being authentic and Jonathan, you said with purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to just constantly be on Facebook and putting out stuff, right? Just to be on, you know, to be out there. And I, you know, for example, for the renovation business, I'm constantly coming back to why am I on here? What is my purpose for being on here? And is my content that I'm putting out there fitting the purpose? But finding that balance between it, I want to be authentic, but still there's got to be some purpose. I've got to be on point with what I'm trying to accomplish. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And it's not just to die for bathrooms that you do, right?
Well, you know, like, well, for example, Mondays, Motivation Monday, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well, every Monday when I throw out that quote, I ask myself, why in the world am I doing this? Are people coming to me for motivation, right? Probably not, right? They're coming to me for renovation ideas or design ideas or whatever. So it comes back to that purpose question again.
Right. You know what I hear for you is I hear Makeover Monday, because all about what you're doing is making over. It's making over your space. It's making over your mind. So if you start thinking about, you know, there is a little bit of strategy in terms of what are the overall things, like what do you want people, I mean, at the end of the day, let's say you're having across the dinner with somebody. What is it that you want them to feel from you? Like, what is it you really want to land with them? And then look at how you can have the different things that you know around that, where you've got some structure, right? But then you allow for the spontaneity of what came up for you that day. Because here's the thing, you're going to have something right before you go on, it's going to come up for you. And you're going to be able to talk about that topic, but you're going to bring some of your life experience in there. That's where the spontaneity is. So to me, I think it's about structure with spontaneity and really learning to see how that flows together.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be authentic.
Makeover Monday, I like
Well,
that very much.
there is no doubt. There is no doubt.
Cool stuff.
So I have a question.
Jacqueline.
So how in depth does a person go to when they're speaking to somebody, like example for my IP cancer thing, like how do you go into depth, like, you know, you should do this, or I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, or do you just generalize it?
Well, I think what happened, it depends like what is I always like to use, I mean, you're probably great at this, as far as using a story to correlate to what is the impact and message I want to do. So I would go like as deep as it lands for them, that keeps them engaged. And, you know, because here's one of the things, and this was brought to my attention with, I mean, you can imagine, you know, for me working undercover, the type of things that I've seen that a lot of people would not ever want to see. I could really describe some things in a way that would disengage my audience because they wouldn't have a way to recover to hear my message.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to be able to give enough information so they get a sense of where you're leading them, because the story is always, you know, impacting the message that you want to have. It's giving, you know, support to the message. But if your story is disengaging people and it's not a way where you can bring certain things up, but you want to move people through. You don't want them stuck in the story.
Gotcha. That is really good. And obviously the advice that Jacqueline might be giving worked for her and her healing may not work for somebody else. So you don't want to be the authority that says, oh, stop taking this, do this, because everybody's journey is different, right? We know
Right.
that.
Right.
But the fact that Jacqueline's got a page called I Beat Cancer, I mean, hello, I want to know what she does differently. And Debbie and I have had the privilege of being in your kitchen and watch her Mark batch cooks from scratch, and there's
Right.
nothing in that fridge or that closet that's got any GMO, and it's totally organic. And there's a whole lifestyle of just the way you guys eat that I think people need to know.
Well, and another thing I like about Facebook Live too is that you can maybe tell like a general story, and you can tell people, you know, hey, if this story touched your heart and you'd like to have some more information, either personal message me or put in the comments, and I will come back around and answer your questions. Because sometimes your audience will lead you either deeper or in different directions based on what they want to know.
Totally. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Good
Sure.
question, Jacqueline. Sue, I think
Thank
you
you.
had a question too, right? Nope, maybe not. Sue Marshall, did you have a question? Maybe not. I thought I heard it come up. Nope, she's just smiling and taking it all in. Okay, so we are just 5 minutes to go. How, if anybody's interested in creating a relationship with you and learning more, how are they going to find you?
Well, you can definitely go to my website, which is DianeHalfman.com. That's DianeHalfman.com, and find lots of resources there. But if we're particularly looking at your space, one of the great things to go is to take my assessment. It is a 4-minute assessment, and it's called theclutterawarenessquiz.com. Again, that's theclutterawarenessquiz.com. And in 4 minutes, you can have the results, you know, take it and get your results back, just because awareness makes all the difference in the world, to just know what things are working and what things you may need some support in. And I'd be happy to help you.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Any last questions before we sign off?
When are you coming home?
Well, I don't think I'm going to bother.
No, we're keeping him. He is now in the spa life. He's moving in. Debbie's unpacking upstairs.
Excellent. We'll get them fit and organized.
So, truth of the matter is, I get home Saturday night, and on Monday morning I leave again.
Where are you going?
I'm going to speak at another event in Orlando,
Oh, nice. And where's Debbie going to be?
right next to me.
Ah, she could come here.
She would love that.
We'll wave
I
as
know.
we fly over.
Yeah, I'll wave.
Yeah, I get to speak at a real estate investing conference where people actually use real estate as their investment strategy. And
Will you have time to go to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter?
I've seen it already, but it is pretty cool.
They've got some new rides in the last couple of years.
Oh, okay, we got to go back to Universal then. All right, I can do that. I think we have 1 day, right? But we're not doing anything. So I get to speak for 2 hours actually at this conference, and we're actually going to be creating a social media boot camp just for real estate investors. So
Oh, fantastic.
pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And then I will be home, Troy, and then we'll meet again.
Fantastic.
He misses me.
I know. I loved all your
He's
people
my
here.
bro.
So, well, thank you for letting me jump in on your
it's
game
so
here.
fun. So
Yeah.
fun. And thank you for the studio.
Yes, it's fun.
I'm not feeling inadequate one bit. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. We're going to render this recording. I'll post it back on Meetup and in the various different groups that you're out here from. And if you want to share this with your friends, we would love that. And DianeHalfman.com. And what was the quiz again?
Yes, the clutterawarenessquiz.com.
I'm on it already, and it's very annoying. No, I meant it's insightful. That's the word I meant to use.
We know what you mean. Okay, everybody, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Jimmy Fallon, yeah.
All right.
Signing out from
Right.
San Diego.
Live your spot life.
There you go.
Have fun
Bye for now.
at Lisa's.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.